All right, hey, thanks for joining me again with the Cribble Painting Handyman. This is Eddie. Um, I guess your host. Um, you know, there's so much I want to talk about, guys, gals, about just so many things in life. And the one thing that's upsetting to me as much as you younger generation, you know, is more or less, housing prices. Okay, that's been a big topic for for many years now. And for those of you that are much younger, trying to get your first home, and you want to blame other generations, I'm going to stop you right there. It's it's not a generation thing. It's I've been trying to figure this out. It's been a calculation of many things. It's a recipe for disaster. And of course, if you're already in your home and say you bought it when before the market went outrageously expensive with cost of living, um, you are able to like literally uh, afford homes at a lower salary. Today, you have to make a higher salary, and so there's an upside to that. Can you make a higher salary? The answer to that question is yes. There are opportunities where you can make more money so you can afford these homes. And of course, it's going to take two people to do that. So if you're getting married and you're looking to buy your first home, your wife works, the husband works, you both work, and yeah, you'll be okay. You'll be able to afford that home. Um, but who's to blame for the housing market to go just so expensive? And I think it's multiple things. There was a thing like I live in Colorado, and let me give you like say just a real quick example. We're in 2024. Let's look at this townhome here. Um, it's $380,000. It's a two bed, one and a half bath, 1,440 square feet, and it was built in 1983. The HOAs are $253 a month, which is not bad. Um, but let's look at the history of this property. It's what's really hard if the property didn't sell. It's a matter of this particular property, what is sold for, and this and that. So say, okay, look at this. Check this out. In 2020, 4 years ago, it sold for $230,000, basically $231,000. 4 years ago. So how in the heck in 4 years a property value goes up $100,000 basically? Okay. Now, if you go back, not even if you go back 7 years ago, look at this. The property sold for $188,000. This is what normalcy was. If you want to go back to 2017, that's what that's normalcy. You can't go all the way back to 2002, 22 years ago. It sold for 118. So I'll be honest with you, like from 118,000 and literally in 15 years later, the value of the property went up 80 grand. That was your norm, probably here in Colorado and in many states. I'm sure there are states like New York or somewhere in the main city of Chicago, LA, where people are buying a home for $800,000 and they're able to sell the home for $1.3 million. That's not normal. But now it seems like that's the new normal. And we want to get to the root cause of how did this happen? How did these homes get so gosh darn expensive? And I've bought several homes. I built all my homes primarily. This is the third home in my lifetime that I bought. Back in '05, '06, I paid I think around 212. for a 3 bedroom ranch. This was in Illinois, out in BFE, and it was a decent ranch, but it was 200 some $1,000 back then. What that house sold before that, I'm sure it was like probably $110,000. Unfortunately, I didn't get to ride that boat then when it was 110,000. But now we're speeding up 18 years later. Now what is that house worth? I don't even know. Um, I don't even remember the address. But this is my point. This is my third home I actually purchased, and I don't want to go back, but I know originally it goes back to where, um, I guess I can I can actually look up the house that I bought and go back. Well, my point is, okay, getting back to the root cause, what has caused this? Well, basically, when interest rates were under three, or even say right around hanging around the 3% mark, um, I know what happened here in Colorado. These Californians and New Yorkers, those were the two states where people were selling their properties and coming to this state and saying, oh my gosh, it's so much more affordable here. And it was. When I first looked at the state of Colorado, which was, say, in 2011, 2012, when I was first looking at Colorado, I would say 2011. And I need to find a property that would go back that far. Everything was affordable, but I blame these people from other states selling their million overpriced homes and coming here and taking advantage of here. And what they were doing was, I did some research, even with these new home builders, uh, people had to get on a drawing, a lottery, to get on the list to get their home built in this neighborhood. And I just wanted to see how it was going. And the lady says, yeah, majority of our clients are from either California or New York. They're selling the property, they're coming here paying cash. And that right there, now the builder is like getting greedy and like, oh, like instead of building that house for 400, now we're in a competition here. We're going to raise that home to 450. And I'm sure those homes that are at were sold for 450, and that would be in 2014, are probably in the market value of double that, 800,000, which blows my mind, because that was in Douglas County, very expensive county in the state, and that was one thing. So that was kind of that phase of what was going on. I don't recollect. Interest rates weren't bad. I think they were 4.5 or 5. They were still very low to me. And then investors. Investors are, I think, the biggest culprit. I would want to bet money. They were the biggest culprit of why home prices are where they are right now. So if you're going to blame anybody, blame these corporations, these investors. I'm not talking, somebody that wants to buy a second home or a third home for a rental property. I'm not talking that individual. I'm talking people where they have an extra $100 million. They need to invest in properties and they're out buying land all over the place. And they're going to rent out the property, Airbnb it, whatever they're going to do, and they're going to beat you out. There's a property out before we bought this house. I believe it was on the market for $550 or $540. And I remember I told my realtor, I'm like, all right, the house was a turnkey. It was a beautiful home. Obviously, it wasn't meant to be for us. But he goes, okay, what do you want to put down? And we had just sold our last property, so we had some money in the bank to play with. And I says, I hate to do this, but let's just we'll offer $600,000. So we're offering, I think it was either 50 or 60 over asking, because we knew about these investors that they're beating out all the regular people. And oh my God, I remember, then we got a call later on that evening or the next morning. I think it was that evening. And My realtor said, Eddie, you got beat up. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not spending a penny more than that. It was a four bath home. I had a full basement, 2-car garage. I think it was a third acre lot. It was wooded. Had a double split rail fence all the way around. Even my dog, she was still jumped that fence. So I still would have had to put a wire link around that property. It was a corner lot, south facing, pretty good views of Pikes Peak, and we got beat out. And how we got beat out by an investor. How do I know this? We had already had this property. We bought this house. We didn't have any competition. We actually we gave them what they were asking, um, and it was on Airbnb, that property that we got beat out on. So it's these investors that literally ruined the housing market, and that's my opinion. And I would say any realtor out there, people that even had extra money in the bank, because they're in the same ball game. They sold their property, they had all this extra money, and so now if the house was out on the market at 500,000, they'd be like, okay, we'll give you 530, we'll give you 540. It was like a bidding thing. There were bidding wars. That's what ended up happening. It turned into bidding wars and then people that were trying to find a house for 6 months and they got tired of getting beat out and beat out. So either they would just fall off and just like give up until something changed with the market. Unfortunately, it never changed. Nothing changed. The only thing that changed was now the housing industry is expensive across the entire country because Californians are going to Texas, they're going to Tennessee, they're going to North Carolina, they're going to Utah, they're going to Wyoming, Montana. They already ruined Colorado. Colorado's ruined. I mean, they already screwed up our state. Like if we would look to move to this state today, if we would okay, we're gonna leave Illinois to come to Colorado, I would bet 1% chance we would come here. 1%. If we weren't here before everything happened. We were here during the whole housing boom. And if we would have bought the house, the people that we bought the house from, they're here for 2 years. Story was their kid, they moved up here to this city. They want to be close to their son. Then their son moves like 6 months later after they moved into this house. They literally paid $369,000 for this property. That's more realistic. It went on the market for 500. So we got it for 500. I renovated the entire house. It's not even, if any of these owners walk through this house, they'd be like, holy cow, this is not the house that, the house it's a 4-bed, 4-bath now. It was a 3-3. But yeah, we blew our value up. I mean, we could probably get double that now, which blows how that is even possible. But for you younger folks and all that stuff, don't blame the boomers. Don't blame the Gen Xers. Millennials were in these bidding wars too. I remember this millennial couple. They paid like 120,000 over asking of a house out here in Colorado. I think they end up paying like 9 something, and the house was on the market for like 8. And you tell me, and they were millennials, okay? So don't put us in the thing. These it was it was like it was bidding war against everybody. And it's like, who was the root cause of the bidding war? And I want to say it was investors, because investors were buying stuff left and right all over the state of Colorado. But I blame these investors, I blame the Californians, and I blame you New Yorkers. That's who I'm going to blame. That's who you want to blame for this whole countrywide deal, is all that. And now we could blame the Fed for increasing these rates to where it's even harder for you to even afford a $500,000 home. If I would like for what I could sell my home for, I couldn't buy that house. My wife and I, we do well, but it's like, hell no. I mean, I guess if you're young and ambitious, I remember the young kids bought a house next to ours. A builder built it to a previous home. They paid $735,000 for this new home, and the kid was like 26 and she was like 25, 24. And he was a tech, he was in computer programming for some bigger company, some internet company, and she worked for like a window treatment company. And I mean, to have a mortgage at that age, like I think it was like he said $3,200 or $3,400, and not even like not even giving a care in the world about it. They were both basically remote work jobs. Stay at home. That's insane. And it's just so the point is who is to blame for um, the housing costs where they say it's not affordable, and then it's all greed, and it's the investors, and it's people that had all this extra money. And 'cause I do remember when we came out here to rent, first to move to Colorado in 2013, 11 years ago, apartment complex, because we didn't want to buy yet. We didn't know where we were going to be. So we rented, and I asked the gal, I'm like, do we get a discount? Can I pay like just a whole year's worth of rent? Give us maybe a discount, get a rent, a month off or whatever. And, because we had money in the bank and I was just trying to save a few bucks. And they didn't do that. They wouldn't do it, which was a bummer. But the root cause of all these, the housing market, why it's so gosh darn expensive. If you want to blame anybody, don't blame any generation. It's not a generation thing. It's basically investors, these Californians that were selling their properties that they had that was cheap. I guess it would be no different like in 5 years from now when we go, if we would sell this property, say 10 years. We were here for life. We're lifers, but life changes, things happen. But if something happens to us and we have to sell this property, we could sell the property and go out and pay cash for another property anywhere else. Regardless, if the house was $600,000, we would be able to pay cash because of the amount of money we would make off of this property. So, because we won't have a mortgage, and you sell the property, say for 1.1, $1.2 million or more, and you go somewhere else and find a $700,000 home, and then you pay cash. These mountain towns out here in Colorado, they're expensive. It's not unordinary to see a home out here for 800,000. It's very normal. So let's go back to like to this list right here. Okay, I'm gonna go to the computer. Let's hop over there, and I really hope I got the other camera recording. But $825,000, 4 bed, 3.5 baths, 2,800 square feet on almost 1.5 acres. Let's check this property out. Let's check out what this property, how old, 1995. What do you think this property sold for in 1995? Do we have any guesses? I'm going to guess 300. That's going to be my guess. I haven't even looked at the house. It goes older. In 2003, it sold for $336. Okay? $336,000. This was in 09. That was after the market crash when everything took a crap. It sold for $315. Sold again for $319. Weird. And yeah, they had tried listing it, like I said, 344, 350, 350, and 18, 459. None of this was sold. Now it's on the market for 825. Double the cost. More than double the price is what they're asking. Even actually, if you go to 09, they tried selling it in 13 for 344. That seems more realistic. Um, let's take a peek at this house real quick. Oh, there's only 2 photos. Oh, I hate those. Ah, I hate those 2 photos. You piece of poop. Who could afford a mortgage of $4,700 and $4,754? Who can afford that? I know there's people that can afford that. If you have no car payments, no school loans, no credit card debt, yeah, you might be able to afford that if you're making oh shoot, I don't know. To afford a home like that, you have to bring in at least 250, I would think. Um assumable mortgage. Assumable mortgage. Take over this home's existing lower mortgage rate. Huh. The interest rate was 3.753%. I wonder if this is going like into a foreclosure or anything about this. I never heard anything about that. Then your monthly payment would be $3,500 basically at 3.75%. That's interesting. Options. But if you want to talk about who's been to blame, um, these are the people. This is who you blame: investors, the people selling their big mansions in California, people are selling their expensive condos and frick penthouses in New York, coming into this state. That's who I'm going to point a finger at. You know what causes, and of course the Fed, and we are all guilty because when the rates were at 2%, 3%, let's just say 3% flat, um, it made our money go further. So basically, if you're qualified, say for I'm just going to throw a number, I don't know. Say you're qualified for $600,000 at 3%. You go to 7%, you might be qualified for 350. That's a huge difference. So now, how do you afford all these expensive homes? If you drop the rate or the cost of all these properties, oh my God, excuse me, everybody loses money. Like everyone across the entire nation would lose their ass. Um, I'm not saying like don't be afraid to buy property. Um, here's another house, 825, 1.1 million, $900,000, 900,000, 1.2 million. This is where I live. 725, 1.2 million. It's happening. This was exactly what my wife and I were talking about. If we didn't get in when we did, we wouldn't be able to get in. It's like you go to Aspen or Val, Crested Butte. You go to these ski towns and all that. All these places are 800 or over $1 million, $2, $3 million. People with stupid money can afford to have a second home up in the mountains or whatever. And like I said, if someone offered me $1.3 million for my property, I'd be asking, do you want my furniture with that? Like literally 1.3, I would leave I would want my safe, but I'd be like, yeah, you get my furniture. I could find a house somewhere for 500,000. I know I can. It's out there. You can find a house under 300,000. But yeah, it's totally out there. But don't blame the Gen Xers, the Boomers, and don't think that we had it so much easier. Because that's false. You know, 2.1 million for this property, 13 and a half acres, 5,400 square feet. It just it blows my mind how much everything is. It is so expensive to live, and I am so grateful we got into our home. We're on a fixed rate, and it's a very affordable mortgage payment. Taxes are cheap. Because you hear about that whole debate, taxes. Well, there are states they have a high tax rate. It's like 2.75% of home value. Out here, I think is 0.6%. Point, not six. Not even 1%. 0.6. I think at one time it was like 0.54%. That's realistic. That should be like that everywhere. Everywhere throughout the country, it should be like that to afford a home, because now you have to have your homeowner's insurance. You have, like I said, you have your property taxes. If you live in HOA, avoid them as much as possible. You'll have an HOA. We don't have no HOA. Our property taxes comes out to about $100 some a month, like $160 a month, $165 a month. Divide 2,000 by 12, whatever. Maybe it is. Yeah, it's not 200. It's less than 200 a month for taxes. Property taxes, I'm talking. Other than that, that's all I had to say. Just make sure this is who to blame. That's who I'm blaming. Like I said, we could, like I said, we throw right back at the feds. The feds screwed everything up when they raised all the interest rates. They hurt the middle class so badly that they cannot even afford apartments. And I feel apartment complex owners, they're scalping. There's no reason. If you have the same apartment that you owned 10 years ago, and now you are renting your property at $850 a month, say for a 1-bedroom or whatever, or 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and now you're doing that at $1,400, you're ripping everybody off. So you could, you want to point fingers. I'm just saying to your own young guys, young gals, look at the bigger picture. Obviously, if you don't know anything about real estate or how it all works, if you've never been in the real estate world and buying and selling properties, realtors see this. But I personally feel that's the root cause of all these overpriced homes. And as a young adult, saying, oh, they got to bring these home prices back down $200,000-$300,000. That can't happen. That cannot happen either. Unless the government's willing to forgive everyone's mortgage loan, so they're not upside down, that can't happen. But they'll bail out banks and they'll bail out the auto industry, Remember back in those days, 08, 09 through 11, remember that? They'll bail all them people out, but they won't bail out the hardworking class people. So on that note, guys, maybe you learned something. This is who I blame. We're still out there kicking it, doing our life, living the dream. We're not going to make any excuses why we can't do something. We can do whatever we like to. We just have to work a little bit harder, and that's just the way it is. We're just grateful that we made the decision to do what we did in the time we did it, and basically, it was a lottery winner on that side of it. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this content. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. What's the cause of all this and who's to blame? It doesn't matter. It's not going to change. You yourself still have to go out there, wake up every morning, and make the money so you could give yourself the best life you could give. And if you're married and have a family, you got to do whatever it takes to give the best life you can to your family. Those opportunities are out there too. They could be in a different video. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.